Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this platform. That's EduTop scholars at Poly class. If you can hear me clearly, please signify. Just say yes. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. All right, once again, I welcome all of you to this platform. This is a revisional class on GNS 401. That is Communication in English 4. Now, I want you to know that this is just a revisional class. And I'm going to go through the course structure. Then I will take you through the exam structure. Now, by course structure, I mean to let you know some of the topics that are treated in this course. And by exam structure, I mean what you should expect in the exam, the structure of the examination questions. That is what we are here to do. And I want to let you know that there is no reason for you to think we are here to treat the exam questions that you are writing very soon. So everything we are going to do here is basically on past exam questions. Okay. Now let me start with the course structure. Now the course structure is designed to help you understand communication in the general form, then communication as it happens in organizations. And this course is actually programmed for graduating students in HND2 in any polytechnic. Now, the reason is to prepare you, because as soon as possible after your graduation, you will either work for an organization or you are working with an organization, or probably you may also have your own organization. And this course will treat you how to handle organizational communication, because the most essential part of any organization is a standard communication system. Now, for the course structure, we have covered theory and practice of communication. That is the general aspect of communication, where we have discussed meaning of communication, elements of communication, process of communication, types of communication, elements of non-verbal communication, and so on. Then we moved on to organizational communication. In that, we have tried to discuss communication as it happens in organizations. Now, we will let you know that the most appropriate form of communication in an organization is the written form of communication. But even as at that, we also have some areas where we cannot do without verbal, oral communication. It is also an essential part of communication in an organization. So, I want to be sure if the video is showing or only audio. Okay. All right. So that is the course structure. Then we moved on to leadership and followership theories. Now, under leadership, we have discussed meaning of leadership, types of leadership, theories of leadership, and so on. Then the expected roles of followers under a particular leadership. We have discussed all those ones. Then the last part is conflict management in an organization. So how to handle conflict in organization. We discussed meaning of conflict and meaning of conflict management, then causes of conflict in an organization, then how to resolve conflict in organizations. Now, let's go back to theory and practice of communication. We have discussed meaning of communication, and I want to remind you once again that communication is the process of sending and receiving information between two or more interlocutors, and we have taken you through the process of communication, which has 8 different elements in it. I think to manage our time, all these are available in this past question that we are going to treat. The first past question we are going to treat is the 2016-2017 academic session past question on GNS 401, Communication in English 4. Now, I think you have the past question already with you. Though it will be displayed on your screen, you will see it. All right, thank you. That is the question. We are treating the past question for 2016-2017 academic session. And I just want to take you through it. Now, the examination will have 3 different sections. 3 different sections. Section A, Section B, and Section C. Now, Section A will be on theory and practice of communication. And in that section, you are supposed to answer just 1 question. And let me tell you, you are going to answer 4 questions in all. 4 questions in all. Section A, you are answering just 1 question. Section B, you are going to answer 2 different questions. But for Section C, you have to answer just 1 question, making 4 questions in all. And I want to tell you that each question you are answering in each session will carry 15 marks, which means you have 60 marks altogether for the 4 questions you are going to answer. Please don't make a mistake of answering less question in Section B. Remember, you are answering 2 questions from Section B. So let's start from Section A now. Section A is theory and practice of communication. Now, the first question there, listen carefully. Nonverbal communication is a rich medium of transferring meaning with at least 5 different types. Explain and illustrate the use of this medium of communication. Okay. Now, one thing about questions in this form is that you have to be able to interpret the question. If not, you may go out of the rail. Now, you have to interpret it. For example, this question now is just asking you to discuss the non-verbal elements of communication, the non-verbal elements of communication. Now, before I will treat the question, now let me briefly tell you about non-verbal communication. In the process of communication, we have 8 different elements of communication, starting from stimulus, then to sender, then we have the message, then we have medium, then we have channel, we have the receiver, then we have feedback, and the last element is noise. Now, remember I said medium, that is the 4th element. And I always say that it is a very, very important element in the process of communication, because if you make mistake at the medium, the whole process of communication may crash. Now, they are now asking us to discuss non-verbal communication, which is under medium of communication. We have 2 media of communication. Basically, we have verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Verbal communication is subdivided into 2, which are oral communication and written communication. But the other aspect of communication, medium of communication, is the non-verbal communication, where you use any other means to communicate apart from written words or spoken words. Now, for non-verbal communication, we have several elements. I will mention about 5. For non-verbal communication, we have the kinetic elements. Now, kinetic means using any part of your body to communicate. I have discussed this several times. that whenever you move any part of your body to communicate, like you wave, you shake your head, you move your shoulder, those signals or those gestures are kinestics. So using any part of your body to communicate is kinestic. So whenever you want to discuss non-verbal communication, those elements are very important. Kinestics is using part of your body to communicate. Then we have chronemics. Chronemic, which means using time to communicate. Chrono means time. When you use time to communicate, like you give your communication appropriate timing. Now, and that is one area of communication that is very important. People miss the message in a communication because the timing is wrong. So if you send communication at the wrong time, then the whole process may crash. And you know, it is still under medium of communication. Choose your medium wisely. So when you use time to communicate, it is called chronemics. Then we have what we call haptics. Haptics means using touch to communicate. Now, when you use touch to communicate, it means you probably touch somebody in some manners that will give them some kinds of meaning. Such meanings could mean violence. There is a way you touch people and it will mean violence. There is a way you touch people that it will mean affection. So using touch to communicate is what we call haptics. It is also a non-verbal element of communication. Then another element of non-verbal communication is paralanguage. Paralanguage is when you use some other sounds that are not speech sounds per se to communicate. You are using paralanguage. For example, hissing means something to different people. When you hiss, it means something. Hissing is part of non-verbal communication. But another thing that is very important about paralanguage is that the vocal aspect of your communication, that is of your message, is very important. The way it is not all about what you say, but how you say it. That is what we mean by paralanguage. The tone. For example, you want somebody to do you a favor. Now, the way you say it may make that person do that favor to you. Like, sorry to use this Yoruba expression to buttress it. Yoruba will say, "Pẹ̀lẹ́ lako olabo." That is paralanguage. The way you say sorry could mean that you are just saying the sorry to let the person just go. So that is paralanguage. Then another non-verbal element of communication is proxemics. Now, just remember the word proximity. Proximity means how close is one thing to another. So proxemics, which means using space and distance to communicate. Proxemics is using space and distance to communicate. In communication, we have two different types of distance. We have physical distance and we have psychological distance. There are sometimes you create distance in your head. That is psychological distance. You just think, I can never be close to this person. And everything you'll be showing will reflect that you don't want to be close to that person because it is already in your head that you cannot be very close. That is psychological distance. But in some other ways, you try to avoid some people getting very close to them physically. That's physical distance. So you can create the physical distance in your mind. You can also create it physically. But whenever you use distance to communicate or to let somebody know you are very close, or to let somebody know you cannot be close to the person, you are using proxemics. I've given several illustrations as regards that people whose minds are very close, when they are talking and third party is there, the third party will hardly hear what they are saying because their minds are very close. That is psychological distance. It has to do with mind. But the same set of people, when they have misunderstanding, there will be wide gap between their minds. And when their minds are widely apart, they have to shout on each other. because the other one will be thinking, for your mind to hear what I'm saying clearly, I have to shout. That is proxemics, that is psychological distance. Using distance to communicate is called proxemics. Now, I don't want us to waste much time in this on this question 1, but just try to interpret that we want you to explain elements of non-verbal communication, which are kinestic, chronemics, paralanguage, haptics, and some others like that. Let's go to question number 2. Is there any question before we leave question number 1?
Does paralanguage correlate with using exclamatory words or exclamatory reactions?
All right. If that reaction uses some sounds that are not speech sound, it is actually paralanguage. Expressing your feelings using some kind of sounds, and that sound will mean something definitely. So even when you say wow, now the person knows you are actually appreciating what you have seen. So we can also say it is paralanguage. Thank you. Any other question there? Now, somebody wrote prostemic. I did not say prostemic. I said proxemics, from the word proximity, proxemics. So then let's go to question number 2. Now, no meaningful communication can take place without the interconnectivity and interactions of the communication variables or elements. Discuss the validity of this assertion. Now, like I said, you have to interpret question. Now, this question simply means discuss the process and elements of communication. That is what the question is saying. Process and elements of communication. Like I've told you that there is no way you can discuss process of communication without discussing the various elements in the process. And I want you to understand that we have 8 different elements in that process. Now, the interaction of these elements will account for a successful communication process or communication instance. Now, if these elements do not interact properly, the process of communication will crash. That is what we want you to explain in this question. Like you have to start from stimulus. How stimulus reacts, how stimulus affects the sender. That is, how stimulus affects the sender, and the sender will immediately generate message when it reacts to the stimulus. Stimulus means anything that triggers you to say something, anything that pushes you, anything that makes it necessary for you to say something. That is stimulus. It will just drop something into your mind that you have to react to this thing. So that is stimulus. And once stimulus acts on you as the sender, then sender is the second element. You have to generate message, which is the third element. Now, when you have your message, now you have to decide on how to send the message, which is medium. That is number 4 element, medium. Medium means the actual form your communication will take, your message will take. You can package your communication using 2 different media of communication. That is either verbal medium or non-verbal medium. If you are choosing verbal medium, it means you are choosing between oral communication or written communication, which means we have 2 different media of communication under verbal communication, which are oral communication and written communication. That is for verbal. But for non-verbal, we have non-verbal elements like I have discussed earlier, chronemics, kinetics, paralanguage, and some other ones like that. You have to mention them. Please, if you're answering a question like this, you have to mention them. Several semesters for Genesis 401, we do ask questions on interaction between the various elements of communication. And what we want you to do there is to explain the process, starting from the first element to the last element. So the number 5 element is the channel. I've told you that medium means the actual form it will take. You have to choose the proper and appropriate medium for your communication to be successful. For example, if you have to say something with your voice, if you use non-verbal means to say it, it may not be successful. The person may not understand you properly. Then, like, you want to apply for a job, the most appropriate medium of communication is written form of communication, because you have to write application. So every communication instance requires a particular appropriate medium of communication. If you choose a wrong medium, that is when the communication process will crash. Remember, the next element is channel. Channel does not mean the same thing as medium. Channel means the passageway for your communication to get to the receiver. It's just like a conduit pipe that we take electric power into your house, or a pipe of water that will take your water from your well or from your borehole to your house. So channel means where your message will pass through to get to the receiver. So we can have face-to-face channel where you have to talk to that person face-to-face. That is in oral communication. Then you can have your phone as also as a channel in oral communication. Then in written communication, you can have email as your channel. You can have text message as your channel. You can have your WhatsApp chat as your channel. That is channel of communication. But when you are sending your message, the medium you are using is written medium of communication in WhatsApp chats. But if you send voice note, the medium you are using is oral communication, but you are using your phone as channel as well. Okay, so let's go to the next element, which is the receiver. The receiver is the person for whom your message is meant. Now, receiver receives the message and decodes it. That's why we call him decoder. And don't forget, the person sending the message is also called encoder, because you put codes together. When you are sending messages, you put codes together. Now, the receiver is the decoder. He receives the message. He tries to ascribe meaning to the message. In that process, he is trying to decode the message. So your message must be understood for the process of communication to be successful. All right? Then the next element is the feedback. Feedback is also very, very important, because it is the only element that gives you evaluation of your communication process. That is, either it is successful or not. You will know from the feedback. Now, feedback means the reaction of the receiver to the message received. Now, the reaction will give you a clear understanding of whether the person understands the message or not. We have two types of feedback, basically, which are immediate feedback and delayed feedback. Immediate feedback is very common with oral communication, because, like Yoruba will say, "Isoro ni gbese." That is oral communication for you. You get your feedback immediately. That is immediate feedback. But sometimes we have delayed feedback, especially as characterized by written communication. When you send message to somebody on WhatsApp, it's either that person did not see that message at that particular time. He or she will come back to it later to send feedback to you. That feedback is already delayed. So, but some scholars also identify zero feedback, which means there is no feedback at all. But it's also a feedback, because in some culture they say silence could mean yes. It means when you are silent about a message you received, it could also mean something. It's also a feedback. Now, the last element is called noise. The last element of communication is called, and that is the eighth element of communication. Now, noise means anything that hinders communication process, anything that tampers with communication, anything that distorts or causes distortion to the process of communication. That is noise. And don't forget, noise has several types, but we have discussed 4 different types of noise, namely physical noise, physiological noise, psychological noise, and linguistic noise. Physical noise means any noise in the environment of communication, any noise when you are engaging in communication process with somebody. In that environment, whatever gives you distortion is noise, is a physical noise. Physical noise could come from the sender himself. Like I always give example of a lecturer that wears an inappropriate dress to class will create noise to students. A female lecturer with skimpy dress will always create noise to male students in that class. So physical noise could come from the sender, it could come from the environment. If there is unnecessary noise, unpleasant noise in the environment of communication, that is physical noise. Then we have physiological noise. That is any noise as a result of damage to any part of your body that is used for communication. Any part of your body, like your eyes, you use your eyes to receive information, written information. You use your ears to receive information that is sound, spoken information. Then you can use your skin, your body to feel. You can use your nose to smell. All those organs are for you to receive information. If there is damage to any part of your body, any of those organs that you use for communication, it is called physiological noise. When they have to say something like 2 or 3 times before you hear, you have impairment with your hearing. That is a physiological noise. Or you cannot read clearly, or you must use glasses to read, and you forgot your glasses. You may not be able to see those things clearly. It will cause distortion, and that is physiological noise. Then we have psychological noise, which is always emanating from the state of the mind of the person involving in communication process. For example, somebody that has a bad experience about something, maybe he or she just lost a very close family relation, and that person has to come to class. Now, 90% of what is being said in that class would not enter into that person's mind, because the mind has wandered away. That is psychological noise. And if you have experienced it, that you have spoken to somebody for like 5 minutes and you ask him for what he has to say to it, and he's saying, sorry, I'm not here. That is psychological noise. So it affects the mind. Then we have linguistic noise, which is any noise emanating from the use of language. That's why we call it linguistic noise. Now, there are 3 aspects of language that are very important, which noise can come from: the syntactic aspect of language, semantic aspect of language, and phonological aspect of language. Syntactic aspect of language is the grammar aspect of language. If your communication, if your expression contains wrong grammar, it may cause wrong meaning to the person receiving it. That is syntactic noise. We can call it grammatical noise, syntactic noise. Because the grammar is wrong, it is not correct, the expression is wrong grammatically, it may cause noise. The other one is phonological noise. Now, any noise as a sort of wrong pronunciation is phonological noise. Another aspect of language is the phonological aspect of language, where we learn about sound system of a language. So if you pronounce some words wrongly, it will cause noise. For an Hausa man to say "pipti pipe," it could cause phonological noise to somebody who is not very familiar with the way they speak. "Pipti pipti" and something like that. So it is phonological noise if the person being addressed cannot read meaning to it. It's phonological noise. Then we have semantic noise, which is very common with African speakers of English language. Now, we tend to speak English language from our perspective of Yoruba language. In that way, we do a lot of times Yoruba direct translation to English expressions. Now, for a white man to say, "I want to drink orange," and you think you want to give him an orange fruit to drink, you are wrong, because in his own culture, when they say, "I want to drink orange," that is the juice. But instead of saying, "I want to drink orange," if it is the fruit he or she wants, he or she will say, "I want to eat orange." Then that is semantic noise. When meaning is wrong, or when meaning is wrongly interpreted rather, then it will amount to semantic noise. That is the last type of noise. Now, I've tried to explain the process of communication from the first element, which is stimulus, to the last element, which is noise. Please make sure you touch all these elements when you are answering questions that requires you to discuss the interplay or interconnectivity of the various elements of communication. In some cases, we call these elements, we call them communication variables. If we say variables, it still means the same thing as elements of communication. Don't forget. Then let's go quickly to question number 3. Any question on question number 2, please, before we move on? What's psychological noise, sir? Psychological noise is any noise as a sort of wrong state of mind. Now, if the mind is wandering and you are listening to important information, you may not get every aspect of that information right. So, a wandering state of the mind can generate psychological noise. Somebody said, what is physiological noise? I've said this. Physiological is when there is damage to any part of your body that is used for communication. All organs of sense are required in communication. Your nose, your eyes, your ears, and your body. So if you are in classroom and there is heat, it will cause noise because several times we have to fan yourself. And when you are using fan in classroom, it will cause distraction also. That is a physiological noise because you feel it through organ of your body. But when you are supposed to feel that thing and you are not feeling it, it means there is damage to it. Somebody pollutes the air and you cannot perceive it. You have problem with your organs of smell. Then if somebody shows you something and you see another thing instead of what they show you, it is, physiological noise. If they say things severally before you can hear it, Mamano Network in Yoruba drama is an example of physiological noise. Okay, I'm going straight to question number 3. Channel and medium aspects, we are taught they are the same. No. Let me tell you, please be corrected now. Channel and medium. Somebody is asking that question here that he read, or maybe he was taught that channel and medium means the same thing. No, they do not mean the same thing. Medium is the actual form your communication will take. Do you want to package it using oral form or written form or non-verbal form? That is medium. But how it will get to the receiver is channel. What will take it from you to the receiver is channel. They are two different mediums. If they are the same, we will not write them separately. We have been saying medium or channel. No, it is not medium or channel. It is medium and channel. Medium is the form it will take, verbal, non-verbal, oral, written, or non-verbal. But channel is the passageway for it to travel to the receiver. Please, time, any other question there, please?
No, not that I can. Someone is asking if we can list the elements again.
The elements of communication again. There are 8 elements in the process. Number 1, stimulus. Number 2, sender or encoder. Number 3, message. Number 4, medium. Number 5, channel. Number 6, receiver. Number 7, feedback. And number 8, noise. Those are the 8 elements of communication. Okay, let's go to question number 3. With relevant examples and illustration, explain any 3 of the following. Chronemics. Oh, I've explained that chronemics means using time to communicate. The time you are sending information will mean a lot of things. Now, if you check on somebody very early in the morning and late in the night, it means affection. It means you have affection for that person. You are the first person to call him in the morning. You are the last person he or she will speak to in the evening. The timing there is reflecting something. That is chronemics. Then number 2, vocal interference. Now, anytime you hear interference, it means noise. Now, anything that is not wanted in a process of communication is interference. Now, when we now say vocal interference, we are referring to any noise as a result of maybe particular sound you make. Let me say phonological noise is a very good example of vocal interference. Now, in some cases, I've given an example of one of my class reps that will say, "Chomit your achievement." Now, that is vocal interference. Now, the dialect, the local dialect is interfering with the spoken English. That is vocal interference. It may cause noise. And when there is interference, it may amount to noise. That's vocal interference. Then number 3, noise in communication. Anything that hampers or distorts or disturb the process of communication is called noise. It could be physical, it could be psychological, it could be phonological, syntactic, or semantic. So, but noise means anything that distorts communication, anything that causes distortion in the process of communication. That is noise. In any way you want to explain it, it should mean that something is disturbing this process. Something is distorting it. Something is causing distortion. That is noise. Then number 4, oral communication. Now, there are 2 subcategories of verbal communication, which are oral communication and written communication. So oral communication is a communication medium that uses sound, speech sound, to send message. That is oral communication. Whenever you use speech sound to send message, you are using oral communication. So you say oral communication is a communication process that uses oral sound to send information. That is for oral communication. Then number 5, Shannon and Weaver model of communication. Okay, now there are various models of communication. Please try and read at least 2 or 3 models of communication. There is no way we won't ask you a question on model of communication in the exam. It may not be Shannon and Weaver. It may be David Barlow. It may be Aristotle. It may be Scrum. Any of the models. Just make sure you read 2 or 3 models of communication that you can explain perfectly. But for Shannon and Weaver, the 2 of them, they are mathematicians. They are in science field. So, but they develop a model for communication. And in their model, they recognize some major elements of communication. Now, they recognize source of information as the first element. Then they recognize the transmitter. That is the element that will transmit the information to the receiver. Now, if you understand it clearly, that transmitter still means the channel for which, through which the message will get to the receiver. And they also identify another element which is different from what we know to be noise. They call it noise source. Noise source to them means that there will be a particular source that will cause distraction, that will cause distortion during the process of communication. So they also recognize that element. But one thing about their communication is that they did not recognize the place of feedback in their model. There is no place for feedback. Then there is no, instead of medium, they identify transmitter. Now, please read more about Shannon and Weaver, but that is the summary of the model. Then if it is Barlow's model, now David Barlow's identify 4 different elements. Just remember SMCR. I can't write on the board now. Don't worry. SMCR, that is the summary of David Barlow's model. He identified the source, which is S, source, which means the actual point where the message is generated from. That is the source. Then M, which stands for the message itself. Then the somebody is asking a question. Then the C, which means channel of communication. So David Barlow identified channel as a core element in the process of communication. And lastly, the R, which means the receiver. So these 4 elements is what are what David Barlow emphasized in his own model. the source, the message, the channel, and the receiver. SMCR. That is David Barlow's summary, the summary of David Barlow's model. So that is number 5. Any question on number 3 before we go to section B? And please, when we ask you to write short notes on some items, make sure you give examples. Now, we give mark for examples too. At least you may have at least one mark for giving examples. Then let's go to section B. Section B, you are answering 2 different questions. Then under section B, we have number 4. Identify and discuss the variants of formal system of communication in an organization with suitable examples. Now, quickly, I want somebody to interpret that question. Class, please, somebody to interpret that question. Just write your comment. Let me see it. Interpret that question. One thing that will help you in this exam is your ability to interpret question. There is no question that will not be part of what we have discussed in class. So for this question, identify and discuss the variants of formal system of communication in an organization. Any question there? Any reaction there? No, I won't go to chronemics again. I've said it severally. Chronemics is an element of non-verbal communication that uses time to communicate. Okay? Please, are you there? Somebody to interpret that question. Identify and discuss the variants of formal system of communication in an organization. Now, let me tell you, when we say formal system of communication in an organization, we are still referring to the directions and flow of communication in an organization. Don't forget them. Direction and flows of communication in an organization. Have you forgotten your vertical communication, horizontal communication, diagonal communication, quasi-vertical communication? Those are the variants of formal communication system in an organization. Formal communication system in an organization. Communication, sending messages in an organization may take the form of vertical means, which means the message is either coming from the subordinate to the superior or from the superior to the subordinate vertically. So if it is coming from the superior to the subordinate, we call it downward communication. And if it is coming from the subordinate to the superior, we call it upward communication. But both of them are vertical communication system in an organization. It's a formal system of communication in an organization where information is either sent from superior to the subordinate or from subordinate to the superior, which means we have either downward communication from superior to subordinate or upward communication from subordinate to superior. So vertical communication has 2 directions, either downward or upward. Another of message or communication among people of the cadre or hierarchy in an organization. Then we have diagonal communication, which means communication that indicates message being sent from the superior in a department to a subordinate in another department. So when communication crosses from one department, that is from the superior in one department to a subordinate in another department, it is going diagonally. So if you understand what diagonal means, so that is meaning of diagonal communication. When information is sent from superior in a department to a subordinate in another department, that is diagonal. Then we have quasi-vertical communication. Some people also call it semi-vertical communication, which means a communication system in an organization that uses intermediary. So any organization where they use union system, that is where there is union labor union, workers union, or whatever, that means in that organization they also use quasi-vertical communication system. In that case, the information coming from workers will be deliberated upon in the union meeting before the union leaders will now take it to the management. So you see, there is intermediary there. The union is the intermediary between the workers and the management. So it is quasi-vertical. It is not going upward directly. It will go to the union first. They discuss it in the union, then they later take it to the management. That is quasi-vertical. It is quasi. It is semi-vertical because it is not going directly either upward or downward. Then those are variants of formal communication system in an organization. So when you see variants of formal communication, or they ask you to discuss formal communication in organization, we are referring to vertical communication, horizontal communication, diagonal communication, and quasi-vertical communication. Okay, number 5, question number 5. Define and explain the difference between rumor and grapevine. Oh, please, this is another aspect of this course that you have to understand. Now, you know, we have formal system of communication in an organization. Formal system. The formal system, we make use of letter writing, memo to send information from one office to another. That is formal system. The memo can go from superior to subordinate. That is downward. Memo can go from subordinate to superior. That is upward. Memo can go from one head of department to another head of department. That is horizontal. Memo can go from management to union, or from union to workers. That is quasi-vertical. It is formal system. But we also have informal system of communication in an organization. The two major informal systems of communication in an organization are the grapevine and the rumor. Rumor and grapevine. Rumor and grapevine. I will just explain the two. Now, the question says, define and explain difference between rumor and grapevine. Rumor in an organization is an informal communication system where unofficial messages are sent from one person to another. Now, nobody knows where the information is coming from, but the information is just unofficial. And there are several things that can account for this. It could be as a sort of malicious dealings with a particular staff. Now, if there is hatred, a particular person has for a particular staff. Now, if that staff has a particular problem, it is that hater that will hear about the problem first, and he will begin to send information to people. They are going to sack somebody, they are going to do this, they are going to do that. Rumor is a negative informal system of communication in an organization. Now, it transmits unofficial information, and most of the time, the information sent by that element called rumor is most of the time negative information that is affecting somebody negatively. It's not having any good news in it, just to spread it to people so that a lot of people can hate the person involved more. But for grapevine, grapevine is just the opposite of rumor. Grapevine is positive. Rumor is negative. Rumor will always spread negative information, but grapevine will spread positive information that will affect the organization positively or the workers positively. For example, when there is a management decision to increase the salary of workers. Now, if a particular worker is privy to that information, he or she may spread the good news to other people. Now, it could be a secretary who stumbles on a particular file on the table of his boss. Now, seeing that information now, he might tell one person, and that person too will tell another person. And in that case, grapevine information is spreading gradually. So it is a positive form of rumor. So that is how you are going to discuss the differences between the two. Rumor is negative, grapevine is positive. Rumor affects individuals, but grapevine usually affects general workers in a particular organization, like increments in the salary or like a particular policy that is going to affect the workers positively. Although in some cases, grapevine can help the workers to quickly have union meeting if the policy is not if the policy is not what they actually want prior to that time. So, but it is also a good thing that they have heard the information before the management will bring it out. So that is the difference between rumor and grapevine. Then number 2, that is 5B. With good illustration, explain the reasons for grapevine activities within organization. Okay? Now, for people to spread grapevine information in an organization, there could be several reasons, but some of the reasons could be loyalty. When a particular worker is loyal to his or her boss, when workers are discussing issues concerning that boss or superior, that loyal worker may likely give the information to the superior before any major decision will be taken, maybe conflict or protest or whatever. Now, that is why management will take proactive measures against some actions in an organization, because there will be a particular person that is always loyal. After the union meeting, that particular worker will go to a particular superior or even somebody in management to tell him or her about the major decision taken in union meeting. And that is one reason, that is loyalty. Another reason is maybe there is new policy that may affect the workers either positively or negatively. The grapevine information will spread quickly. That is another reason. New policy may generate grapevine messages within an organization, and some other reasons as such. Question number 6. Is there any question I have to attend to? A positive form of rumor is called grapevine. Yes, you are correct. All right, let's go to number 6. Both the interviewee and interviewer are stakeholders in an interview with expectations of different roles. Identify and explain any 5 roles expected of the duo in an interview. Another aspect of this course that we usually examine you on is interview. Please, after today's class, whenever you want to do your revision, make sure you read something about interview, meaning of interview, meaning of interviewee, and meaning of interviewer. Now, if you don't understand those terms, you may not be able to answer the question. Interview, that is a session of interrogation during the process of recruitment in an organization. That is interview, where a particular panel or group of people will invite candidates that have written application, that is applicants. They will invite them for charts. Now, such charts will bring up several questions that the applicants will have to answer. So in that process, the interviewer has some roles, the interviewee also has some roles. The interviewer is the person that wants to interview you, the management of the organization or the recruitment team of that organization. Those are interviewer. You, as a person, as an applicant, is the interviewee. So, as a person that is going for interview, what are the roles? What are those things you should have in mind? That is what this question is saying. What do you have to prepare? Number one, any interview in any organization is a formal communication system. So you have to dress formally. Your dressing should be strictly formal. Unless you have been informed to dress otherwise, it is always strictly formal dress code. That is number one. Number two, make sure you understand some things about the company or the organization that you are going for an interview with. So understand what they stand for. Understand some of their policies. Make sure you understand major things about the organization. That's number two. Number three, make sure you get to the interview venue early. Don't go there late. Go early to interview venue. Number four, make sure you comport yourself. You have confidence in yourself. Your look does not look like you don't have confidence. Make sure you are wearing a face that shows confidence. Then make sure you are not the one that's going to take the seat yourself until you are asked to sit down. That is when you sit down, when you get to an interview venue. Then make sure you ask for clarification of any expression or any question you do not understand. Don't assume that is what they are saying. If you are not sure of what they are saying, ask question. Ask for clarification. Excuse me, did you mean? Excuse me, can you say that again? But make sure you are polite in your request in that regard. Make sure you also ask questions about the organization. Make sure you also display the level of knowledge you have about your organization. And in some cases, if they do not talk about your take home after employment, you can also ask about that. It is allowed to ask that in an interview. So those are those are the roles of the applicant, the interviewee in an interview. Let's quickly go to number 7. Number 7, write short notes on the features and procedures of any 3 of the following. Write short notes on the features and procedures of any 3 of the following. Now, one thing you also need to revise this night. I gave some people assignments of this. Now, if not all of the classes, I think some of them, I said make sure you are able to differentiate between debate, seminar, symposium, conference, and meeting. Those 5 items are very important. Take note of them now. You can write them down. Write them down. Make sure you're able to differentiate between debate, seminar, conference, symposium, and workshop. Make sure you are able to differentiate between them. So the procedure for organizing each of them are very similar. They are very similar. So, but the major thing is that you should be able to differentiate between them. Debate is when there is a particular topic of interest in an organization, but there are different views about it. Now, they can call 2 different groups of people to come and hear their opinion about it. In that case, it could be a sort of argumentative expressions or argumentative conversation. Now, that is debate. Debate will always have a particular topic in consideration, and there will be 2 sides of it from different group of people. That is debate. But for seminar, whenever there is seminar in an organization, it means there is a particular policy the organization wants to implement, but people need to the organization needs to let people know or let people understand certain things about that policy. That is when they organize seminar. Then experts in that regard will now come and give them talk on that pressing matter in the organization. That is seminar. People may come to present their own opinion on that matter, which may touch different aspects of the organization. Then symposium and workshop. Now, in any workshop, you see that there is a particular aspect of the organization that people don't really have knowledge of. Now, they organize workshop in an organization to let people know about certain things, especially when it has to do with I want to use that as example, the use of machine. For example, when students don't understand how to use Porter, there could be a workshop to teach them how to use, how to go through their Porter to do different things, registration or whatever they want to do. There could be a workshop to let them know how to do it. But the difference between all this and conference is that in conference, several people have different opinion about something. There will be a particular theme for the conference, and people will bring different opinion. In the written form, they come with their papers to present papers in that conference as touching one particular theme. Now, the theme will have sub-themes under it. It is those sub-themes that different people will pick their area of interest, and they write papers on it, and they come to present their opinion publicly in the conference. So, but in a nutshell, please read the differences between debate, seminar, workshop, conference, and symposium. Then the last aspect, that is section C. I don't have water here. Okay, section C, leadership and conflict management. Leadership, not too cold. Leadership and conflict management. That is the last section of the exam, and that is the last aspect of the course too. Now, in an organization, for that organization to run effectively, there will be position of leadership. Management may have to appoint people to be in charge of certain things. Now, those people are called leaders in an organization. Head of departments, several team leaders, and some other things like that. So they have to understand basic leadership principles for those people to be able to lead effectively. And one aspect of leadership that is very important is how to handle conflict when it happens in an organization. And that is why we always discuss the two together, leadership and conflict management. A leader must be able to handle conflict so that it will not go out of hand. What is leadership? What is conflict? What is conflict management? That is what this section is all about. Number 8, under leadership and conflict management, that's section C. The theories of leadership are sufficient to explain leadership behavior and followership pattern. With good examples, use the trait theory and path goal theory to justify this assertion. Okay. Now, there is nothing you have to do with this than to discuss these two leadership theories. There are several leadership theories that we have discussed. For example, the trait theory, contingency theory, followership theory, and so on. So, but for trait theory, now trait theory, there's one expression that always explains the trait theory, which says leaders are born, not made. Which means a leader, a potential leader, will have some traits in him that will already show him to be a very good leader. before anybody will even think to nominate or suggest. Now, they already see it in him. And before you know it, several people will suggest such person in an organization that he should be the leader. Now, because he already has those traits in him. So trait theory is saying that leaders already have some traits in them that portrays them as good leaders. Even before anybody would nominate them, people already know that they are leaders. So for such traits or for such characteristics, now you will notice that such people will have some kind of confidence. Such person will have integrity. Such person will have emotional intelligence. That is to handle situation when it happens. Now, those traits, those characteristics are in the trait theory, that any person that possesses such traits or characteristics are potential leaders anywhere you see them, which means leaders anywhere you see them already possess certain traits or features that will mark them out as a good leader. That is what the trait theory is saying, that they are born with such traits, and whenever you see them, they have such traits as confidence, integrity, emotional intelligence, and some other things that will characterize a good leader. But for path-go theory believes that a leader leads effectively by his ability to give incentives and motivation. Now, in path-go theory, you see such leader that will always make people do things because those people believe there is something waiting for them as remuneration after engaging in such task. So such leader are those that belong to the school of thought that we call path-go theory. So in path-go theory, leaders always give incentives to make their followers do a particular task that is given to them. And each time such task appears, they are always willing to do it because they know Oga will always give us something. Oga will always give us something. And you see, people that have a lot of followers are using that theory to undo their leadership ability. Now, in politics, if you see people that every morning, early in the morning, people are already waiting for them to open door, and they are sitting to welcome them to say good morning. It's because that person is giving them something. That person is giving them incentive. He can send them anywhere. He can be very sure that they are loyal to him because he is always giving them incentive. That is what path-go theory is saying, that a leader performs very well by the use of incentive and motivation to his followers. So trait theory and path-go theory are two different theories. They do not have similarity in any way. Trait theory means leaders are born with features or characteristics that will make them become leaders. But path-go theory says that people recognize leaders that motivate or give incentives to their followers. Those are the two theories. Then number 9. Let's go to question number 9. Okay.
Two people asked about separation.
Okay. Debate where there is a particular. Okay. Okay, I said incentives and motivation. Incentives, they give them incentives and they give them motivation. And the motivation we are talking about is in form of what will make them happy. Something they can take home and they will always remember such leader for. So incentives, like if you have seen a potential teacher in nursery and primary school, now for the pupils to listen to him or her, he has to give them something, and for them to answer question when he asks question, for them to raise their hands, he will have given them something that will motivate them. So that's what we mean by incentives. So let's go to number 9. Conflict is inevitable in an organization and is sometimes a catalyst for change. In light of this, number 1, define conflict. Number 2, explain 4 potential causes of conflict in an organization. Number 3, explain 3 possible methods of resolving conflict in an organization. Okay, quickly, let's discuss that. I think we are going beyond 1.5 hours now. I want to make the discussion so fast now. Now, one thing I want you to understand about conflict is that whenever you hear the word conflict, it does not mean something negative. In fact, conflict is a very good thing. And that is why in some universities where they study conflict, it is always studied with peace. They say peace and conflict, because one depends on the other. Now, don't forget the popular saying that says, if you want peace, prepare for war. For peace to come, there must be conflict. So conflict is not a negative element. It's not a negative thing in an organization. It is positive. It's a catalyst for change in an organization. Wherever there is no conflict, it is very difficult to develop. So whenever you hear conflict in an organization, it is different from the conflict you see on the street. It's not a street fight at all. Conflict in an organization means a state of disequilibrium or contrast among workers and management in an organization. So when there is disagreement on certain things in an organization, that is what we call conflict. It does not mean people carrying cutlass and machetes, and that is not what we mean by conflict in an organization. It means a positive thing, something that can bring change to an organization. But in the first stage of it, there will be disagreement, there will be misunderstanding, there will be contrast. So between the management and workers, that is what we call conflict. So it is a state of disequilibrium or contrast between the leaders or management and the employees in an organization. So we are done with number 1, 9.1. Then 9.2, explain 4 potential causes of conflict in an organization. Several things can cause conflict in an organization. Number 1, innovation. You may be surprised that innovation can cause conflict. Innovation is one of the things that can cause conflict in an organization. When they bring new idea, especially in this era of technology, to an organization, people are lazy to learn new idea quickly. We try to fight against such policy because they think it will not they think it will affect them negatively, rather. So now, new idea or innovation can bring about conflict in an organization. Number 2, another thing that can cause conflict in an organization is communication gap. Communication gap between employees and management can cause conflict in an organization. Leaders that are not very close to their followers may cause issue in the mind of their followers. They may think that leader does not have them in mind. That is why he does not come to see them regularly. That is why he does not organize meeting to meet with them regularly. So when there is communication gap between leaders and followers in an organization, there could be conflict. Then another thing is the organizational structure. Organizational structure can cause conflict in an organization. For example, in some organization, the CEO office is very far away from other employees. In fact, there are some employees that have never seen their CEO before. That even managers, apart from CEO, managers, some managers, their office are located in a place that for several years, some employees will not be able to go there. So organizational structure can cause conflict in an organization. Another thing is fear of the unknown. Now, like I said the other time that when they bring new idea to an organization, some people may begin to exercise or entertain some fears in them that this policy they are bringing is an attempt to sack us. They want to send us away. That is why they are bringing in machine. What we have been doing before, they now said machine will be doing it. So they want to, like in this era of AI, a lot of people are afraid that some people will be sent away from their jobs because what 10 people are supposed to be doing with the use of AI, just 2 people can now do it. So when there is something like introduction of such ideas that we make people think their position will not be relevant anymore, it can cause conflict in an organization. And then we have cultural barriers too that can cause conflict in an organization. In an organization where we have several ethnic groups coming together, there could be what we call fractions in the organization where we have some people saying something like that. Now, cultural barriers can cause conflict in an organization where some people will have one thing or the other against a particular cultural group in the same organization. So it happens in some organizations where we have several ethnic groups working. A good example of that is any federal organization where different group of people will be in the organization as workers. So the cultural barrier is another thing that can cause conflict in an organization. So let's go to the third question. That is, explain 3 possible methods of resolving conflict in an organization. Okay, this is also a potential exam question. Every session, conflict resolution, method of resolving conflict in an organization. There are several methods, but I will mention some of them. Number 1, consultation. Consultation is another, is one major method of resolving conflict. Management and employees can engage in consultation to examine the cause of conflict and what might probably be the solution to it. They can have conversation, they can have dialogue. Okay, even dialogue is another means. Consultation is when the union leaders consult some stakeholders in the organization before taking major steps concerning a particular policy that is causing conflict. That's consultation. But dialogue is when the management and union leaders or even representative of the employees have conversation together. That is dialogue on how to go about that major matter that is causing conflict in an organization. That is dialogue. Another thing is to resolve conflict in win-lose method. Win-lose method. That is, one party will win the conflict and the other party will lose in the conflict. In some cases, when the employees are asking for increments in their salary and they demand for a particular percentage of increments, like 30% increments. Now, at the end of the day, the conflict may make management decide that, okay, we are going to give you, and immediately they may implement such increments, and the workers will be happy. That means the workers won, and the management, one way or the other, lose. That is lose-win method. But sometimes it will be win-win. In such case, it means after the dialogue, they share the percentage, maybe 50-50 or in a way. Now, we cannot pay that, but let's do it this way. Instead of 50%, let's say, let's make it 25%. At the end of the day, the workers will also be happy, but the management did not lose completely. So that is win-win. But in some cases, if such does not work, it will lead to the other side of conflict, now which may make management lose some potentials in the process. But in a nutshell, now consultation, dialogue, win-lose method, win-win method, they are major methods we use in solving or resolving conflict in an organization. In the exam, we will not ask you to discuss more than 3. Most time, look at in this question, explain 3 possible methods. So you may list more than 3, but you may not have to discuss more than 3 methods of conflict resolution and organization. The last question under leadership and conflict management, number 10. Write short notes on any 3 of the following with germane examples. Laissez-faire leadership style, bureaucratic style, pseudo-democratic style, win-win method, exploitative authoritarian style. Now, these are always, these are various styles of leadership. Now, let me use this opportunity to tell you that there is a big difference between theories of leadership and styles of leadership. Now, when we ask you a question on theories of leadership, we want you to mention things like trait theory, contingency theory, path goal theory, and some other theories like that. But when we say leadership style are various styles of leadership, like how a particular leader will handle his followership, his followers rather. Now, laissez-faire is one of them. In that case, a leader gives free hand to workers, and he assigns roles to some of them to take decision on certain issue in the organization. He only gives them little supervision. So he makes them do several things themselves without just having to supervise them or having to criticize them in any way. So in laissez-faire, the leader gives workers free hand to take decisions on certain matters in the organization. Then for bureaucratic style of leadership, this is a type of leadership where the leader will make the workers or the followers follow due process according to hierarchical order or structure of the organization. Now, they will have to follow due process. Whatever is the structure of the organization is what a bureaucratic leader will follow in his style of leadership. So this kind of leadership will always have everything on paper and they will follow it to letter. Every worker will do it the way it is supposed to be done in the organization. But for pseudo-democratic style of leadership, this leader will appear to be like a democratic leader, but in the real aspect of it, he is not democratic. Now, he might just come up to seek the opinion of the followers in some cases. But before he comes to do that, he already has his decision in mind, which means he will only come to let them feel like they are contributing to organizational matter. But in his own mind, he already has his own plan how to go about several matters. So pseudo-democratic style of leadership is referring to a leader that pretends to be democratic, but in a way he is not. That is pseudo-democratic. Leader that pretends to be democratic, but in a way not democratic. Now, win-win method. Win-win method is a method of conflict resolution where there is a balance between the two parties in conflict, there is a balance. The two, nobody is losing. Everybody is winning. The management is winning and the employees are winning too. The leader is winning, the followers are winning too. So that is win-win method of conflict resolution. This method makes everybody happy in the organization. It will ensure good relationship between the management and the workers, because nobody has anything to lose. The management is okay with the decision, then the employees too are okay with the decision. That is win-win method of conflict resolution. Then the last one, exploitative authoritarian style. This style of leadership, we always enforce things on the followers. Now, it does not give them room to hear their own opinion. It does not give them room to take decisions on their own. He is the one in charge. He is authoritative in his style of ruling or in his style of leadership. So that is authoritarian style of leadership. Now, but the major thing is for you to be able to differentiate between theory of leadership and styles of leadership. Theory of leadership is this type of leader. Under what theory can we categorize him? Now, is it trait theory? That is, can we say that he has some ability in him, some characteristics in him that has made him become the leader? That is what we mean by theory of leadership. Or this type of leader, did he become leader because of certain issue in the organization that needs resolution or that needs attention at that time? That is why he became the leader. That is leadership theory. But for leadership style, how is this person leading the followers? What method of leadership is he using? That is style of leadership. Style and method of leadership, they mean the same thing. So in that case, we have laissez-faire, we have autocratic leader, then we have pseudo-democratic leader, we have democratic leader, we have bureaucratic leader, and so on. So make sure you are able to explain the difference between theory and style of leadership. I will just take a few questions and I will tell you about the structure of the exam again. Thank you. God bless you too. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate you too. How can conflict be detected? This is a very good question as well. In an organization, there are some cases where they have to put suggestion box at a particular point in the organization where people will drop something. Now, we can use that to detect conflict. Then, when a particular employee is showing some attitude towards work, we should notice that this might result into conflict. Then another thing is when you discover that some people are forming caucus in the organization, some people are forming some funny groups in the organization, you should suspect conflict. Then sometimes constant meeting of the union, constant meeting of unions in an organization can suggest conflict, can make us detect that, oh, something is wrong somewhere, that we may experience conflict very soon. And some other things like that. Let me see another question. You taught us in our class that great man theory posits great leaders are born. And okay, sorry, you see, there is another theory we call great leader theory. It is very similar to trait theory, but it's not the same thing as trait theory. In great leader theory, such leaders are born, not that they inherit such traits from their parents. Their parents may not be able to kill even a cockroach, But this kind of people, you will not know where they inherit that kind of confidence and ability from. So they are just born with that ability. But in some cases, you see, when traits are inherited from parents, we can trace that to trait theory. But great leader theory, they do not have any similarity with their parents at all. They are just born with that ability. We have people, you see, legends are some people that are, how do we call them? Now, legends or what? Legends, like people like Moremi, people like Lisha B. Yes, icons. People like Lisha B, people like Shonwu Ogbomosho, they are product of great man theory, not trait theory. So many of them, their parents were not like that. They were just born with that ability, without any trace. But for trait theory, there is similarity between such people and their parents. They inherit such traits from their parents, like integrity. Some people that their parents cherish integrity so much. You see that child too, when growing, we always ensure integrity in his dealings. So it is traceable to trait theory. But people that are born with that ability without being traceable to their parents, they belong to the great leader theory. That is the difference. Now, sir, factors that can hinder communication effectiveness within an organization. That is barriers to effective communication in an organization. Barriers to effective communication, one of them is gatekeeping. Gatekeeping means some people that are in charge of relaying information to appropriate quarter, they may decide to delay such information because they believe they have such power and they have something against that person that is sending that information. Now, they may delay the information or they may keep it away. That is when they say they keep something under carpet in an organization. It is the work of gatekeepers in an organization. So communication will not get to the destination when there is gatekeeping. Then please, you may have to read that quickly before you go to exam. Please, barriers to effective communication in an organization. So another one is information overload. Now, when a particular messenger, that is the person that's supposed to carry message from one place to another, has been overloaded with several information, he might leave out some part of the information, maybe out of loss of not loss of memory actually, but we call it information overload. You cannot handle information more than what your capacity, your intellectual capacity, or what we call your information ability can carry. When a messenger, an HOD asks the messenger to go to several departments, and in that case is going to deliver different messages, especially when such messages are oral messages, he might forget some of them. Then even in the case of written messages too, memo, take this memo to this department, production department, take this one to human resources department, take this one to. Now, before he or she knows it, some of the information will be left out. We call it information overload. That is another barrier to effective communication in an organization. Then, what else? There are several of them. Before the end of the class, let me attend to some other questions. I may tell you some again. Okay. Can example of trait theory be formulae or some QT? Anyway, yes, I can say yes. Now, QT families are known to be icons in the society, and now it is very possible that the children, the descendants of that family may inherit some traits from their parents that will make them become leaders. So thank you for that example. It's a very good example of trait theory. Okay, I can't see any other question here. I think we have done justice to this past question. I thought we'll be able to take 2 past questions, but as I'm looking at it now, I won't be able to go through the second question. I think somebody already asked a question from the second one. Now, please check. Some of the questions have been treated. Some of the questions in the first one, in this second one, has been treated in. Okay. But if there is anyone that you think we have not treated, you can just.
Somebody is asking, what's the difference between structured and unstructured interviews?
Oh, okay. What is the difference between structured and unstructured interview? Structured interview is the most common type of interview where the interviewee and interviewer will sit down, and the questions to be asked are already structured on a paper. They already know what question they are going to ask from the interviewee. So they already have the questions ready. Now, they already know who is going to ask which question among the interview team members. Who is going to ask this? They already know which questions they are going to ask. That is structured interview. And they have plan for everything. Which question should come first? What should we ask him when we get to this place? So that is structured. But unstructured is when the interview is basically to know the capacity of that applicant, his ability to undo things outside the current issue. Now, for example, when they ask question that will lead to another question. Now, the answer, when they ask him question now, the answer he gives to that question will determine what question they are going to ask him next. It's not that they already have those questions written on papers. So it is the kind I can call freestyle. So it is not structured. They just ask you questions according to what happens presently. So that is the difference. And there is a particular interview we call exit interview. Exit interview, I think somebody already asked. Exit interview is the interview conducted to someone who has already left the organization or who has already completed his term in the organization. Somebody who is retiring already, or somebody who has already retired. So they invite such people to interview them so that they can tell them several things in the organization that somebody who is still in the organization would never say, due to fear of being sacked or being dealt with by the management. So, but somebody who is already leaving the organization can say things point blank the way they are. They don't have fear for anything. They are already going. They don't have to be afraid of the management or whatsoever. We call it exit interview. It is to evaluate the organization. Maybe there's a particular thing that will cause conflict anytime soon. So such employee that is retiring or that is leaving the organization will be invited and interview. We call it exit interview.
Sir, when we're discussing rules of interview and interviewer,
Okay, sir.
we then discuss the rules of interviewer.
Okay. See, as the interviewee has his own roles, likewise, the interviewers also have their own roles. In any venue of interview, the number one, the interview process should be organized. Number one, the venue. It should be conducive for people that are coming for the interview. Number two, they should structure the questions in such a way that it will be within the capacity of the person they are interviewing. Number three, organizational interest must be the priority of the interviewers. Now, number four, they should not give preambles to questions, such preambles that will give that or that will create fear in the mind of the interviewee. So they should take note. They should avoid any preambles that will create fear in the mind of the interviewee. So, and some other rules like that that I may not be able to discuss now. Then the yardsticks for evaluation should also be determined appropriately. The interviewers should determine the yardstick for evaluation appropriately. They're asking. Okay, symposium. Symposium is very similar to workshop. In a symposium, the organization may invite experts on a particular field. Now, to come and give a kind of enlightenment to certain group of workers in an organization. When an organization organizes workshop or symposium, it is to develop individuals in the organization, to build them, to give them new ideas that maybe they don't really have before. So symposium and workshop, they are very similar. Both invite experts, but in workshop, organization may invite experts in symposium, but in workshop, it may be within the organization where some people that are already in the organization for a very long time will give orientation to new employees on certain things. So, but for symposium, most time they invite experts to come and handle certain things that can develop individuals and the organization in an organization. Thank you. What the interviewer should consider in an interview. That's what I've just explained now, the roles of the interviewer. Yes, I've spoken about that. Okay, any other question that I may not see here? Okay, so once again, the exam is going to have 3 different sections, section A, B, and C. You have to answer 4 questions in all. 4 questions in all. Section A, 1 question. Section B, 2 questions. Section C, 1 question. So 3 questions in all. Where we ask you to answer 2 questions, please make sure you answer 2 questions. Then where we ask you to discuss 2 items out of maybe 5, please make sure you don't discuss more than 2. That may also affect you. So the section A, theory and practice of communication, 1 question. Section B, organizational communication, 2 questions. Then section C, leadership and conflict, 1 question. So I hope you understand the structure of the exam now, and this will help you greatly. So for those of you that may still have questions, can we see the questions after this?
Yes,
You can still drop your questions. I will answer some questions before I sleep, but that will not be oral expressions. It will be written. I will type your answers. You will see them. Okay, thank you, everybody. I wish you best of the luck in your exams. I wish you best results. Good night. Peace time. Thank you very much.